review of last week's episode and this week's TESOL topic. Next on HOPEWELL TESOL. Let's go! Let's go! Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of HOPEWELL TESOL. My name is Chris Hopewell, and I'm your TESOL guy. Last week, our TESOL topic was traditional versus modern teaching. I started this channel with this topic because I believe it's the foundation of everything you will learn about teaching English on this channel. So please remember, traditional teaching is teacher-centered. A lot of teacher talk, passive students, low level of student participation, lots of individual work. There's lots of textbooks. It's usually very boring. And modern teaching, the teacher is the guide or the facilitator. It's experience-based. Students are active participants in the learning process. There's lots of different activities. There's lots of group work. There's a communicative focus. So the class is very student-centered, and there's a high level of student participation. Okay, so modern classrooms are good. So modern classrooms are what we want. So what? You probably should teach language in a modern way. Sure, but how do you do that? Good question. The answer, or a small but fundamental piece of the answer, brings us to this week's TESOL topic. Oh my God, I'm on the edge of my seat. This week's TESOL topic is methodology. Asa, woo! Okay, so how you teach English in a modern way has a lot to do with methodology. What is methodology? Methodology is an umbrella term used to describe the different aspects of effective teaching. Or we could say methodology is the different methods or ways of teaching. Or styles. I suppose styles would work too, yeah? Why not? Okay. More or less, methodology is the how, why, and what. Is the how, why, and what of teaching. The how is the way you will teach. The why is why you chose that way. The what is what you will do specifically to teach that way. Basically, it's your plan, belief, and action. The how is your plan for teaching. The why is your beliefs for teaching. And the what is your action for teaching. The first method is grammar translation method. This is mostly about reading and writing. There is very little speaking or listening. This is mostly used to understand texts in other languages. It's usually about the translation of a literary passage. There's lots of reading comprehension questions. There's lots of fill in the blank, lots of memorization, lots of memorizing grammar rules. Lots of memorizing vocabulary. There is no communication done in the target language. Does this sound familiar to you? Do you think this is a traditional way of teaching a language or a modern way of teaching a language? Next is the direct method. In the direct method, no translation is allowed. Meaning is conveyed directly in the target language. The teacher does lots of demonstrations. There are lots of visual aids. The focus is on everyday vocabulary and sentences. Grammar is taught inductively. Teaching is done through teachers modeling and students practicing. There is a big focus on listening and speaking, and correct pronunciation and grammar is emphasized. Sounds a little bit better than the grammar translation method, one step up. Does that sound traditional or modern? Next is the audiolingual method. This is a lot of listen and repeat, like a robot. Here, repetition is very important. Over and over and over again. Listen and repeat. Listen and repeat. Sound familiar? New material is usually presented in dialogue form. There's a memorization of set phrases. How are you? I'm fine. And you? I'm fine. And you? I'm fine. And you? There is really no grammar explanation. A big importance on pronunciation. A little bit of the student's first language is allowed. Successful responses are immediately reinforced. Good job! You did a great job. Vocabulary is limited and learned in context. Does this sound familiar to you? Listen and repeat. Listen and repeat. Does this sound like a traditional method or a modern method? Next is total physical response, or TPR. TPR is about learning being more enjoyable and stress-free. This is similar to the way children learn their native language. Parents instruct, child physically responds. sit down, and the child sits down, TPR. The teacher acts as the parent, gives the child the command, and the children act in response. So the teacher directs, and the children act in response. Listening and physical skills are emphasized over speaking. These lessons can be funny. Humor is allowed. Students are not required to speak until they feel comfortable enough to do so. Grammar and vocabulary are emphasized over other language areas. This is a great way for children to begin to learn a language. Often, they feel too much stress to speak at the very beginning. So simply a physical response is a much easier way. And spoken language is emphasized over written. It's a good way to start. It takes pressure off children. Does that sound modern or traditional? And finally is CLT, or communicative language teaching. Under the CLT umbrella are other techniques such as the natural approach, the cooperative approach, content-based teaching, and task-based teaching, to name a few. The key features of CLT are an emphasis on learning to communicate through interaction in the target language. There's always authentic texts in learning situations. Not a fake menu in a textbook that you order from, a real menu that the teacher brings from their home. Authentic texts, real texts. CLT gives students a chance to focus on the learning process itself. Students are encouraged to speak about their personal experiences and their feelings. The students' personal experiences are very important in a CLT classroom. And teachers are trying to get students to use the language they use inside the classroom, eventually outside the classroom as well. This sounds fun. This sounds interesting. This sounds useful. Does this sound like a modern classroom or a traditional classroom? So in a nutshell, grammar translation method, or GTM, is a lot of reading and writing. No speaking and listening, no communication, just translating one language into the other to answer questions, maybe on a test. Audiolingual method, or ALM, is listening and repeating. Direct method is having the teacher or another student ask you a question and you answering that question, with lots of speaking and listening. Total physical response, or TPR, is asking the students to do something physically, and then they do it. And communicative language teaching, or CLT, is getting students together to solve real-world problems, have real-world conversations, do group work, and communicate in the target language. And these 5 methods are probably the most common 5 methods you'll find in a language classroom. Which one is the best? Well, like I said, it depends on who your students are and what they need. It depends on the situation. But no matter what you choose, I suggest that your choice is producing students that are active participants in the learning process. Students that are involved in lots of group work with a communicative focus. Basically, having fun and enjoying themselves. Hopefully. Okay guys, that's it for this week's episode. We talked about a lot. Woo. I hope you got the gist about what methodology is and can use the concepts we learned today to become better language teachers ASAP. If you found this episode useful, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And I'll see you next week on HOPEWELL TESOL. And remember, if you want it to go well, you gotta hope well.